Hey Mike, welcome to Creators Campfire. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, my absolute pleasure. I've been waiting for this for a really long time.
I'm very excited. We've known each other, I guess, for a couple of years now, which is awesome. And it's been so fun to get to know you. But this is our first kind of like, oh, I'm going to sit down and quiz you. Not that people do that in their everyday lives, anyways, but I'm very excited to sit down and have this conversation with you. We're going to talk about your YouTube journey, and I'm going to ask all the things that I probably haven't asked until now, which is going to be fun. But let's start way back when. Why did you get into YouTube in the first place? Because it looks like you uploaded your very first video like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So talk me through that.
Oh gosh, I love this. First of all, you're completely right. This is gonna be a fun dang episode. Yeah, 5 years ago, I don't know, I was spending such a large amount of my time actually watching YouTube. Back in the day, it was like I was watching the OGs like Casey Neistat, Peter McKinnon, stuff. Mainly Casey Neistat, and I don't know. I'd watch him every single day, and I would just think to myself, he has such a cool life. Why can't I do that? And it kind of inspired me to like start making my own vlogs. It really honestly started with I was in first year of university in Canada. I'm from Toronto originally, and I was shooting on an iPhone 5. Like literally, I shot on the stuff that I had. I even had a essential tremors, meaning my hand constantly shake, and I still kind of went through it and still did it. That deterred me to make videos for a really long time. But yeah, I just kind of made the way I look back at it now is like you you have this hope that you think each of your like the first video is just going to explode and it's going to solve all your problems. You're going to become this viral sensation. But I realized I watched it, my mom watched it, my best friend watched it. That's it. And I just had to continue.
I love that. Yeah. We definitely all do this. It's like, oh my God, we're going to go viral. This is going to be the best video. It's like, oh, nobody knows who I am. I see. Yeah. There's this thing that like so many people say, hey, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to do this thing. But then either don't do anything about it, or, you know, in the case of you, and definitely for me, wait years before they do something. So I guess a better question would be, what was it that finally made you record that first video, having wanted to be a YouTuber for, say, a couple of years before that?
I think I just realized I had to put something out there because if I never started, if I never took that shot, I would never make any progress. It was like for such a long time, I was watching these kind of like, I guess like productivity videos, and I thought I was improving or doing stuff, but I wasn't really. And it was like, I can't keep waiting. I was basically at that point of my life, I had just started college. I was feeling really lonely at that point, honestly. And I was like, either I'm going to start being intentional about the things that I want to create in this world, or I'm just going to let life continue to take me in a direction that I didn't want it. So I was like, okay, now is kind of the time.
You've obviously then got to this point where you're like, hang on, that nothing is working. At that point, what do you do? Do you like? I think there's a big gap in your YouTube kind of like career. So are you at that point saying screw YouTube, I kind of give up, or are you saying, hang on, I need to take a step back, figure out whatever the hell I'm doing, and come back? Like, what was the break like?
So it was actually the first one where like I had been doing this for such a long time, and I guess such a long time is like maybe like 30 episodes. That's not such a long time. Maybe even a bit more. But I kind of went back to the drawing board and I was like, okay, what's the goal here? It was freedom. It was like to work for myself. It was to have this like passion aligned with the work that I was doing. So I really went back to that, and there's this idea that I learned recently, and I realized I was doing back then. It was like being very rigid with what your what is. So like what I actually wanted, which are the things that I just described, but being flexible with your approach. So like a good example is like before I was being very rigid with my approach, that I was like, it's only going to come from monetization and affiliates and from making Casey Neistat inspired vlogs. But when I actually switched up that kind of approach, that how, and I basically switched it over to thinking about, oh, I like design stuff and software, and I've always liked software and tech. I was like, oh, I can just teach myself how to do that. And I started kind of diving my time in towards that, then ended up basically cold calling a bunch of different, basically just cold messaging people, then found a client.
Yeah, I very much like that. I've definitely had this thought of, I either carry on in my corporate life, this is obviously going back a few years, or I have to go full time with YouTube. And it's like, well, hang on, there is an in between, right? Like you don't have to go from one to the other. Firstly, you can find like side work in the meantime, then maybe you can go part time, and then you can kind of go all in, and you're kind of building the blocks to that. So you're right, it's not just all or nothing.
Yeah.
I also like the other thing you said, about, I like it, but I can't remember what you said. You said something else about finding another way to get to the result you want, which I think is also super important. So yes, you might have wanted to be a YouTuber, but that doesn't mean that the way you were doing it was the only way to be a YouTuber. And I think that's really cool. That's nice. Is you've kind of found a different way back to it.
Yeah, it's so interesting because and I feel like this has come up many, many times. It's actually just come up again in my life where it's like, I think, yeah, just know what your goal is, know what success looks like to you, and then figure out how to get there, and like use other people that have done that as examples.
Yeah, and also it's not like I need it right now. Like if I want to be a YouTuber, I can, be a YouTuber in 5 years. Like it doesn't have to be in 5 weeks right now. And then if it doesn't work, I'm giving up on my dream. It's hang on, here's the path. Here's how I get there. Yeah, no, I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, there's this beautiful thing I want to quickly add, and I wish I could have convinced myself about this earlier. Well, actually, everything happens for a reason, so never mind. But it's basically, and it comes from Tony Robbins and this other guy, Alex Hormozy. They both talked about it. But it's like everyone overestimates how much they can get done in a year, but they underestimate how much they can get done in a decade. So if you just look at a long-term basis and start making decisions on these long-term rewards that will happen, you'll stop making the wrong decisions that will basically just, for example, maybe not the wrong decision, but like if I was just constantly chasing money 24/7, and not looking at a long-term view, I might make potentially catastrophic decisions.
Yeah, that's something I also tried to remember. And it sounds like there's more than one person. I heard it from Gary Vee. And he was like, guys, yes, life is short, but it's also actually in theory very, very long. So it's like, so long. You don't have to do everything right now, this second. And when I think that's a big thing, because people will post a few videos, and I've been guilty of this. Like you'll post a few videos and you'll be like, where's all the growth? Why am I not getting X thousand subscribers? Like, this is stupid. I'm giving up. It's just not working. And you're just like, hang on. And which comes back to Ali's, one video a week for 2 years. Consistency, show up, be there, turn up, do the work, grow. 2 years to become a full-time YouTuber is actually not very long in the grand scheme of things. And where people are like, oh no, I didn't post for a couple of weeks. Like, yes, consistency is wonderful, but if you take a month off, no one is even going to remember that in a year.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. Okay. That's very, very cool. So you then take this break, you go and earn some money, and you want to come back to YouTube, and you are coming back to YouTube. What is the plan this time, and how is it different to the first time around?
This is where, I immediately was like, I was making some money. I was like, okay, I was learning about accountability, learning about basically just slowly becoming obsessed with learning. And I was watching Ali Abdaal a lot at that point, and I was just like, oh, great course, love this. Okay, so I dropped, I think it was basically $1,000. And at that point, I was like, it was like a bullet. I was like, oh my God, this is a lot. But what's beautiful about that is I'm a very firm believer. It's like, put your money where your mouth is. And when you do that, you actually show up. And it helps kind of push you through the little ideas or the little struggles of like, I don't want to do this, or it's not going to work. You go, basically there's like a sting, and you just go, oh, it's $1,000. Okay. And what was beautiful is like, I made the weekly video. I actually got to meet all of these people that like changed my life in general. That really being like, I didn't have these like-minded friends that were also creators. So many, and you probably get this as well. It's like so many times I felt crazy, or like I knew no one, like literally one other person of this entire journey that wanted to be a YouTuber. And like, he wasn't actually fully like serious with it and continued with it. Like, but then I started this course and I was like, whoa, there's a bunch of people that are just like me. I'm not crazy. This is great.
Yeah, we were definitely going through it together because I felt all of those things. Isn't it funny how like an investment of like $1,000, which don't get me wrong, is a lot of money. We see it like so much money, but we've both been to uni and spent how much on our education? And that was almost a no-brainer. Like no one even questioned that. That's almost the done thing to do because that's what's been happening for, decades or whatever. And that's the expected way. And all of a sudden, like $1,000 in an investment in you for something you definitely want to do seems like an insane amount of money. And the amount of people that are going, no, I'm not going to do that. Why should I do that? Why can't I get that for free? It's like, why not just like, don't get me wrong, I'm speaking for myself as well. I've definitely been there. I've gone, no, I'm not spending that money on that. And it's like,
yeah,
dude, invest in yourself. Like, what are you waiting for? Yeah.
So Alex Ramosi has this idea as well, and there's a couple other people that have mentioned this to me, but it's like, especially when you're young, you want to be learning as much as you possibly can. So if you can take that money and reinvest it in yourself, don't get me wrong, yes, invest in investments and stuff like that, but like whatever percentage you're comfortable with reinvesting in oneself, it's going to pay so many dividends. And like just on the idea of like, for example, I've paid $1,000 for PTYA, a couple other courses as well, but I've already like by far surpassed that amount in earnings. So like it takes time, it takes hard work, but like you can get those dividends to pay itself.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I guess the other thing that you were talking about was the community feel. And yeah, I totally felt this is that I also felt like nobody around me would even, like I wouldn't even say it to anybody that, hey, I want to be a YouTuber, because I knew that it'd be like, dude, no, like get on with your job and like stop living in a fairy tale land. Yeah. And then all of a sudden there's this group of people that are like, yeah, YouTube, it's the shit. Like, let's do this. How big of an impact do you think that had on you?
When I think back to PTYA, when I describe it to other people, that is the sole, like the very top thing, the most important thing that I say to anyone. Like I remind them and I tell them, if you're going to do any course, the most important thing should always be building that community and building those friendships, because that's actually going to lead to an identity change, because you want to be part of the tribe. All your other friends are going to be making videos. So you're going to be like, oh, I want to fit in. It's a natural part of being a human being. Therefore, you'll be more likely to do the work. And that's exactly what happened with me.
Just sidestepping YouTube, although it's completely related. You obviously said you went on this like learning journey where you were like, okay, I want to be a learner. I want to be a lifelong learner. And this is what you're doing now. Where did that kind of come into your life and how did that evolve? And where were you at when you came back into YouTube with it?
So it was 2020 at this point. That's when I was graduating. It was like peak COVID time at this point. And it was February. I was supposed to graduate in like April. And so I hadn't made a video since like a year before that. It had been like a while. It had been a long time since I made a video. And this is the point where I finally, after like basically trying a bunch of stuff, kind of did the idea like fake it till you make it. So like essentially found that client, basically, yeah, started doing that stuff, and I grinded until like November. So all the way from February to November, I worked my ass off on that job, didn't even focus on YouTube at all. And then once I had that money and I moved to Poland in that September. And at that point, it was December when PTYA cohort 1 was, right? I'm pretty sure.
No, yeah, November. I think it kicked off mid-November and yeah, finished end of December.
Yeah.
Or mid-December or something.
And it was literally the week before that I made my like coming back video. And it was like 30 days of quitting caffeine. But like, again, it started the momentum for everything.
So when you did it the first time, it was like Mike vlogs, right? It was Casey Neistat wannabe.
Yeah.
You then came back and your content is totally different, and it's going down a completely different route. What was your thinking and your thought process going into this time? And did you have more of a plan?
The plan was still like the same as earlier. Like I wanted to make it my full-time thing. Like I at this point on, I guess, the client work, I was spending like 15 to 20 hours max, actually 10 to 20 hours max a week. So like it was still very much like this, I want this to be my full-time gig. I want to be a full-time YouTuber. I want this to like give me the abundance, the freedom that I've always wanted. And I kind of realized, okay, I always had like a crap ton of success. I was like, okay, again, let's listen to role models. It wasn't working before. Let's adjust. Let's pivot. And Ali even mentioned it. He's like, you can find all of the stuff that I'm sharing with you online if you actually want to put in the work. But I think it's very valuable to actually spend the money to have it all presented to you in a really pretty format where I can easily come back to it.
Specifically, I guess with the content, you haven't come back and done vlogs. You've come back and done.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So what was the thought process there?
The way I think of it in my head is like a slider. On one end, it's entertainment. On the other end, education. I would put Ali Abdaal more on the education, maybe not all the way to the radical one side, and then Casey Neistat on the other end. And like I basically went from one end right to the other and lived there for a while. And the thought process was like, oh, this seems like a much more sustainable model. I can do this right at home. I can talk right in the comfort of my home, put out these videos, write these scripts, instead of like before Casey Neistat stuff. It was like very much consumed my entire day. I was running around everywhere, and it allowed me more of this balance that I could still focus on the client work. And like I was able to juggle both of them without dropping anything.
What were some of the things that you learned from your first time around that you took into the second time around?
Video editing. Having a good basis of like editing videos I was very familiar with Final Cut already. That was like super valuable. Like even to the point of like knowing how to do masking and stuff like that. I guess the idea of as well of already being comfortable on camera. So I would always say it's those two things, right? Like knowing how to create a video start to finish. So like having that confidence in me, knowing that it's possible already. That's one thing. Being okay, being my goofy self, saying, yo, what's up, guys? To the camera.
And being comfortable with it. Yes,
yeah.
I love it. Okay, so obviously version 2 of you and your channel was awesome and it like totally flew. And
thank you.
Your videos and the level of like the production, the thumbnails, just everything about them was like amazing. How was it mindset wise to start seeing that growth and like videos go viral? Like I think it was your standing desk video or something like at the beginning?
Yeah.
It might have been one before
the standing desk video was the first one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What was that like going, oh my God, there's actually traction this time. I can see something.
It was wild. I felt like I was on the top of the moon. It was like the first time I had ever seen an exponential function in my YouTube studio ever. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is possible. The fruits of my labor are finally coming. And it's like, there's this idea of like any belief that you have. So say, for example, the belief is I'm a YouTuber. It was just basically an example of a point of success for me. And the way I think of it is like, that was basically like putting a leg onto the table. So now the table is more sturdy. And like, it can also be from knowledge. So for example, PTYA put on another leg on the table. And the more legs I can put onto the table, the sturdier that thing is in my mind. So that's basically how it served me.
A many-legged table. I like
it.
Yeah,
now it's like hundreds of legs on a singular table. It's like you can't even push it over. It's fantastic.
This is awesome. I need one of those tables. That's very, very cool. Okay, so I also know that you started outsourcing your editing reasonably early on, even though you could, like, obviously edit very well. What was kind of like the trigger to go, hang on, I'm going to go and get an editor now? And what was it like actually trying to find an editor?
I got pretty lucky, actually. Actually, no, I didn't get lucky right away. I sometimes forget. The immediate trigger was when we basically were doing part-time YouTube Academy and just talking about the idea that was possible. It wasn't back then. It wasn't even something fathomable in my head where I was just like, oh, Casey edits his own stuff. Therefore, I must as well. And I would always tell myself, oh, I'm the only one that knows how to create this story and do these certain cuts. But then I realized, okay, it's like the idea, I think the catalyst was just this idea of like little small reversible tests. And this came from like Tim Ferriss, where it's like, say, for example, you want to move somewhere, you want to do something, instead of fully committing, go live there for a week and see if it's actually something you want. And then if it's not, reverse it. and essentially I created the same thing. So first I went on Fiverr and I basically just started putting up some job posts, and yeah, I found someone, and then they didn't output, but then I found another friend in PTYA then who recommended someone, and we figured it out and we started working together, and like I was able to get to a place where I was happy.
I also stole your editor, which was very nice because I was one of those people that was like, I don't know what to do. Somebody just give me an editor. And I remember you giving me the pep talk of like, dude, just get an editor. Why are you doing this? I'm like, no, I have no money for YouTube. And you're like, shut up. And I was like, yes. And I'm very incredibly grateful for that. Thank you, Mike.
My pleasure.
Yeah, that was wonderful. I needed that kick up the backside. So to anyone listening, highly recommend outsourcing editing very early on in your journey. Maybe after a few of your own videos. Go for it. Your channel is now starting to pick up. You're starting to get subscribers. You're starting to see traction on your videos. What was it like getting monetized? And how is the monetization journey for you to now?
The first time I made money and I got part of the monetization thing, I was over the moon. It's like the same thing as like, I feel like for example, so you have an e-commerce business, that first sale or that first time you make money from your YouTube channel or whatever it is, it just hits different. It's like, oh my God. Because again, it's another leg on the table. It's like, wow, this is possible. And actually to get monetization, it was, and Ali says this all the time, where it's like, yes, keep putting out those videos, but it's usually going to be that one video that pops, that gets you the significant amount of watch time to really get you that and the subscribers that you need. From there until now, honestly, until the last month, I was really, again, like back to the idea of what basically the goal and the approach, which is the how. I was throughout this entire time so rigid with my approach, where I was just like, I can only create this successful YouTube channel by AdSense earnings, so I needed a viral video. Second, by affiliate stuff, so I needed to make more product reviews, which wasn't going to result in that viral video, which I didn't realize. And then the third one was like, I need to get enough basically subscribers to get sponsors, which I'm at like 30K now and slowly starting to have that conversation. But like until recently, I approached basically I had a couple like successful people kick me in the butt, which is really nice in a positive way, basically saying, hey dude, you're broke. You know that. Start opening her up to like stuff like coaching. And I started doing that recently, and monetization has completely changed. Where it's just, again, opening myself up to different hows. Also, I've started editing for another YouTuber as well, to like learn more and bring some more money in as well. It's again, like realizing that this is a 10-year scheme, right? Like we need to figure out how can we make this road as most successful and like vital, actually alive as possible. And if you're not making money, it's a bit problematic. Also, as context, I had gone full time, and that was that's a story inside of itself. We can go into it if you want.
Let's go into that. Okay, yes. Talk to me.
Basically, the client that I had talked about before. So this is like, imagine the stuff that I was doing before. It's like software design stuff. I was doing this for a year and a bit, and it was last September. So we're almost at September now. So less than a year ago that basically I lost that client. And like the goal was never to build that business up. I didn't care about multiple clients and stuff like that. It was always just to reinvest it into YouTube. And I was hoping that I would be able to suffice with that until the YouTube channel picked up and blew up, and I would basically be able to go deuces. But that's not what happened. In September, they basically were like, we're done with this software stuff. We don't want to do this anymore. Basically kicked me to the curb. I was a freelancer. Again, they were really awesome to me. They were really kind, but their goals changed, and I didn't prepare myself accordingly. That was all on my end. And that then led me to put out a tweet that basically said, hey, I want to go full time, which led to a friend wanting to invest in me to match my previous earnings for the year at a certain amount of interest, which then led to me telling some other people, and I have some support from family, which basically had allowed me to go full time. And yes, honestly, like the entire time I was kind of like, again, still like in this whole year, I was so rigid. I have this agreement with myself basically that I have to make it self-sustaining by September 1st. And so September 1st, this coming up, I have to at least break even. And I'm going to, actually I already am now, which is awesome. But thank you. None of this happened until like literally the last month ago, where I opened myself up to like, for example, consulting or coaching or like helping other people. And it's all revenue sources of this business, but actually thinking about the business instead of just going, I'm fine. If you just be super product driven, the money will come. And it will, but it's taking more time. And again, I have to figure out how to get money in. So yeah.
What made you change your mind about those different revenue streams? Like, what was the light bulb moment that went, oh shit, hang on, there's something else here, and it's coaching or consulting that I can do?
So it was a trip that I did in the last month and a half. It was actually to collaborate with another YouTuber. And while I was there, he so graciously introduced me to his network and his friends there. And he surrounds himself by these like really just amazing, successful, kind people. And I got to experience kind of some, I guess I would define one of these as like a goal setting thing, where like in that session, so I was the least successful there. And basically two of the guys there had like a deep talk with me, kind of helping me like basically literally telling me the exact thing that I said, was like, you're broke, you said you were broke, it's very clearly evident, it's like we're all very successful, this is the exact approach that we did, you don't want it. And I explained to them my pushback. I didn't want to do that because I was so scared of, oh, if I give up my time now, I'm not going to have time to make on the YouTube videos. And then maybe I'm just going to build this. The fear was like building this business that I didn't want for myself. But once I realized like, oh, it doesn't have to be an insane time commitment. I can set how this offer is. It doesn't have to be this like full service insane thing. It's all on me and how I set the standards. And yeah, it wasn't until that, and then another guy who was also there, who was like a coaching friend, who really like got on a call with me and started pushing me and giving me the exact tactics, which then led to me getting my own coach who now holds me accountable on a weekly basis. So yeah, that was the whole process.
Bringing it back round, I guess, to the YouTube channel, which is kind of your obviously your main goal and what you want to do. Like, first and foremost, your videos, they were already good when you kind of came back, version 2, right? And they've only got better. And your thumbnails, I know when I see a Mike video and I look at it and I go, damn, like they just get better and better and better. So just, yeah, seriously good stuff. And I know you've kind of like, we're about to hit 30,000 subscribers, but your channel like is, in my eyes, is just waiting to blow up like big time. It is so good and I genuinely love it and watch all of your stuff. So firstly, I just want to get that out there if I haven't already said that to you.
Thank you so much. It means the world. It's like when you have, thank you, BHAV. Like, it's when you have people in your corner actually supporting you. And again, I wouldn't have met BHAV for PTYA, but it's like, it's just, I'm just so thankful and grateful for it. And like, I really do appreciate that. And yeah, this has honestly been freaking amazing.
Yes.
My first podcast ever. So this has been a blast. And gosh,
I'm very grateful that this is your first of many, I assure you.
Thank you.
This is cool. And actually, while I'm just, on the mic train, I also just want to say that, yes, I'm incredibly grateful for PTY for meeting you and your friendship. It's been wonderful. So thank you, Mike, for just being there and being Spidey. I think we need to see Spidey.
Yeah, this is Spidey.
There he is.
I would come to the PTYA sessions because it'd be nighttime and I'd always be wearing these. Yeah, we won't go to the Spidey.
Mike is Spidey. Right, Mike, we've obviously had technical issues that we'll try and cover up in the edit, which is why we're going to wrap this up before Mike disappears again. It's not his fault. I don't think it's mine. I'm going to blame Riverside. If you're listening, guys, it's your fault. But no, Mike, honestly, firstly, thank you for being here, and for being Spidey and for everything. And I wish you and your channel the best.
Thank you.
It's going to be awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My absolute pleasure. And this podcast is going to go to the moon as well. By the way, really, thank you for everything. This has been awesome.